I would define intangible cultural heritage as the knowledge, skills and practices that form part of our culture. That's the definition we use for our research on the Red List of Endangered Crafts. And that includes craft practices that have not originated from this country and that have come to this country through migration, through diaspora communities. And we think that's really important to recognise the contribution of those crafts as well. My name's Daniel Carpenter and I'm Director of Heritage Crafts. We're the charity that was set up in 2009 to support, safeguard and celebrate traditional craft skills in the UK. So we're one of, I think, 4 organisations in the UK, and so we're really flying the flag for intangible heritage in this country. So we talk to government ministers about the importance of these skills. We do awareness raising through our activities, just educating people about what intangible cultural heritage is.
My name is Jeremy Walsworth. I'm the company director of Howarth of London. A grand title, but really I'm an oboe maker. That's my background. The company as it is now was really started in 1948 after the war. The story goes they were making instruments up in the London shop. There was only 3 guys making them then. They realised that they were running out of space in London. They needed to go somewhere back in the early 70s. And I think they fancied moving to the seaside, and I don't think it's any more complicated than that really. I don't think the decision was more involved than that. African blackwood's been used for oboes and clarinets for 100 years. And it suits acoustically the way the instruments are played as well, so it produces the sound that people want. Aspects of the job we can't really improve with technology. The one thing that you can change is the way instruments are constructed and the way the parts are made as well.
We're one of only 12 countries in the world not to have ratified the 2003 UNESCO Convention on Intangible Cultural Heritage, which kind of puts us very much on the edge of international discussions about the value of the knowledge, skills and practices that make up our culture. We've been campaigning for us to ratify the convention since we started in 2009. We've never had a definitive answer about why we haven't as a country. We've got a very strong tangible heritage sector in this country, and I think at one point the kind of intangible heritage was seen as something for other countries who didn't have that wealth of material, maybe countries that had experienced conflict or war and their tangible heritage had been destroyed or redistributed, and this was a way for bringing them into this discussion about heritage in quite a little bit of a patronising, condescending way, possibly. So I think that might be one of the reasons why we haven't gone further down that route.
One of the very important things that we like to do here is a big part of the instrument is aesthetics as well. When we go through all the different woods, as you can see, there are a massive variety of colours. What we like to try and do is match the colour and the grain. So as you can see here, this is one I found put together earlier, you can see the difference in the wood and the bottom joint. If you line them up, you can pretty much get almost an identical flow of grain and colour.
We do a little bit of tapering, and we've got one that we can do a bit of tapering on and pick another one. Here's what I'm going to do. So do something with a bit of tapering and then another one.
This is called what we call the setting out machine. So it turns the blank bodies that you saw downstairs in the wood department and puts all the holes in. You're listening to how the wood cuts, basically. Is it cutting cleanly? Is it vibrating? Is it chattering? And I'm adjusting my speed and my pressure to adjust that. And what we've done with the CNC machine is to try and replicate the analogue person doing it, rather than not just going. So it comes in and it replicates that motion that you've just seen me do.
There are a number of issues and obstacles facing heritage crafts. If it was just one issue, it would be a lot simpler and we could kind of deal with that.
One of the biggest problems that we face when we're taking new people on is that they don't have the basic skills that perhaps we had 30 and 40 years ago.
You know, and good dexterous skills, good hand-to-eye coordination, and also good sight. You know, when you look at something, is that right? No, that's not right. It's being conscientious. Yeah.
You have to understand the mechanics of how things work.
You know, some people are interested and some aren't.
And not everyone wants to sit at a bench and make musical instruments all day.
It's a craft. It's a practice craft.
This is called SolidCam, and then we use SolidWorks, which is a 3D modelling software. So this is the software that allows us to create tool paths from the machine, so we can design them on here with a 3D model, and it will generate the code that gets sent over to the machine to make the part.
We've always applied for grants for, we did try and get involved with just training schemes and things like that.
We found out a couple of weeks ago that over £2 billion of apprenticeship levy funding had been returned to the Treasury unspent since 2017.
But because we're not an accredited or a recognised craft or a degree, there's no funding. Basically.
It's because the standards don't exist to access it. It's a huge scandal really that we've not spent that money that was dedicated to training. So that's a big kind of stumbling block for these craft skills being passed on. It's the lack of apprenticeship training provision. We did some research last year to see how many of the crafts that we represent have apprenticeship standards, and it was only about 1/4. And even of those that did have apprenticeship standards, a lot of them weren't being delivered anymore because each apprenticeship requires a classroom-based element, so they tend to do 1 day a week in a local FE college or training institution. And those colleges were pulling out from that provision because there weren't enough people going through to make it economically viable for them. Kind of education has become more market-led within the last 20 years. By putting all the emphasis on the market forces in order to shape where the training goes, you're kind of losing out on the big picture. I think there needs to be an overarching emphasis on things that are culturally important, things that are socially important and economically important for the country as a whole.
So what we've always done here, that every instrument is made, or the key set is made by one person for that particular instrument. And we found that by doing so, they tend to just make them better than if they were just making a key for an instrument. The person takes sort of ownership of that instrument. I think it just makes the job more interesting as well.
So I get the key pieces, and then we just use silver solder to kind of stick it all together. The jigs give you the rotation, and that's kind of it.
I think a lot of crafts are very sustainable, particularly kind of woodland crafts or crafts using local natural materials. Having an awareness of how things are made makes you value them more. By practicing heritage craft skills or by buying heritage craft products, you're being more mindful about where things come from, and you're reducing the distance between producer and consumer. That all add to the carbon footprint of products going around the world. It just makes you a little bit more mindful of where things are coming from. If you've got an item that's handmade, you're going to cherish it and not consider it to be a disposable object. And I think that will have knock-on effects then on our purchasing and our kind of putting things into landfill.
I'm refitting the silver-plated keywork to ensure that and setting it up to tolerances that will ensure that the keywork will function in different climates, i.e. temperatures and humidities, because wood is a hygroscopic material which absorbs local moisture and expands and contracts. And if we don't allow for tolerances on the keywork, as the wood moves, it will bind the keywork. So at the moment I'm just trying to just fit these keys up within those tolerances. So I have to go very carefully by removing silver and some metal to achieve those tolerances, so that I know that the instrument will function in a wide variety of temperatures and humidities.
So in terms of the making of the instrument, in all I've probably spent up to 80 hours making a professional model oboe with over 250 components, and we would like to think it's probably one of the finest instruments you could buy on the market now.
You ready?